Building an indie business in the center of venture capital. I am Alex Edmonds, also known as SupremeRumHam on the internet, and this is the Building an Indie Business podcast. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about athletes, and the reason why is because for me, the real sports season is when they start signing contracts. That's the interesting part. So we're going to go over the contracts, what factors go into a contract, and how the different ways an athlete can make money. Okay. And then I'm going to give my opinion about some things. All right. So let's get into it. All right. So, the contract, there's many different factors in a contract. So there's your guaranteed money. So let's say Steph Curry's contract is worth $201 million, I believe, and not all of that is like guaranteed money. So there's incentives that are built into this, and there's a signing bonus, and then there's different stipulations. So let's go into incentives. What are incentives? They're money that's in the contract, but he won't necessarily earn unless he reaches like a goal that the team wants. So let's say the incentive is winning the championship, right? So he will only get that $10 million if he wins the championship. But that's in his $200 million contract. So actually his contract is worth $190, assuming that's the only guarantee. So he might be guaranteed $50 million. So that's how much he's guaranteed to get no matter what. But he may earn $150 million if he reaches all the goals that they have in the contract. And then he doesn't get $50 million over time. It's going to be over at least 5 years. So it's $10 million, $10 million, $10 million, $10 million. In sports, they have a thing called salary cap. And this is how much a player can make depending on certain factors. And those certain factors are how long you've been playing with the team, how long you've been playing for. So someone that's been playing for 10 years has the opportunity to make more than a rookie, right? There are other factors like being traded that factors in. So basically a sports contract between a player and a team is just essentially an employment contract. And when a player gets traded, they're trading the contract, technically. So there's this thing called the Larry Bird Law. Well, that's not what it's called. That's what I call it. And when a player gets traded after 3 years, when a player has been playing for one team for 3 years, they don't need to use salary cap to pay players. So like Steph Curry's max contract might be 5 years, $20 million. So when they sign him again, they don't need to use their salary cap to pay him that money. So they can use the salary cap to sign different players to help him out during the season. So max contract is 5 years. And then you can sign a max contract that includes all the money that you could potentially make until you're 35. So after you turn 36, they're like, oh, you're going to turn 41 at the end of the contract. And in sports, a player usually retires at 40. So no one really wants to sign a 36-year-old to a 5-year contract. And so if you end your last contract at 36, you take a pay cut because you don't have a 5-year contract, right? Okay. So that's one thing that they can do to or that's one way athletes make money. There's also licensing, which is like autographs. You sign things and then you sell them on the internet or anywhere, I guess. It doesn't matter. There's also naming rights. So a company comes to you and they say, hey, we'd like to use your name to sell our product. One example of this is the George Foreman grill. Yeah, so George Foreman didn't actually invent the grill. Someone came to him and said, hey, can we use your name to sell this grill? And George Foreman probably gets a percentage of the sales or ownership rights, and that's why he's in the commercials for the grill, because he has incentive to get the grill. And usually a licensing deal is like 1 or 2% of the sales or ownership of the company. It's not very lucrative, but it's easy, right? You just let them use your name. So you're not doing a lot of the work, and that's why you don't get a lot of the sales. Okay. So there's endorsement deals. And I think for some athletes, at least like the superstars, this might be more lucrative than their actual contract because there's no cap on how much you can make, right? So you might have your contract might be worth $20 million, but you have 5 endorsement deals worth $6 million. So you're making 30 on your endorsements and 5 on your 5 deals, and you're making 20 on your contract. So you can have multiple deals. And I think, I know for a fact actually, your endorsements are less work than your training for whatever sport you play. Because like in the NBA, going up against Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan takes a lot of training, right? You're in the gym for 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, and for your for your endorsement, you shoot a commercial, you show up to an event, and they pay you like $1 million for that event, given that you have certain things you have to meet, and then you're only doing a couple things for your endorsement. You're shooting a commercial, you're showing up to an event, which is a lot simpler than playing against Michael Jordan or training to play Michael Jordan, right? Yeah. And so the things that the products that you're selling for the companies are like sports related products. So like shoes, food. I've seen people promote banks. And then the good thing about endorsement deals for the athletes is that it continues after your retirement. So you see retired players in commercials for different products, like maybe some type of cream that helps them recover from all their training. Okay, so another revenue stream for them is investments. So they can do normal investments, stocks, bonds, other types of investments, and then they can also become a VC, right? So they can easily become accredited, and then they invest in startups or early stage companies. Another option for them is to start their own company. So Steph Curry has a production company where he starts TV shows and he puts them on air and he produces them, right? So that's another option. And then what they can do is they hire management to run all these things, and then they go play. So yeah, another option for players is to do appearances. They can do movies and get paid that way, or they can do corporate gigs. And I think this is really good for athletes that are in a small market. They can promote the local sporting goods store, and this is a way for players in a small market to make more money and become well known in the local community. And the reason why I think small time players need to become known in the local community is because the average player's career is like 5 years. So you need something to do after you retire, and becoming known in your small time community is another way you can make money. You can become the local news anchor for sports, and that way you have another job as soon as you retire. I think that players are overpaid, but they still make pennies compared to like the owners or the people in the league that set up the league, right? Because why would the owners be willing to give an athlete $100 million if they wouldn't be getting a huge ROI in that investment, right? So for the athletes, though, the real money is endorsements. But the problem with that is you have to maintain a certain image. If the public hates you as an athlete, then companies will not be coming to you to have you be the face of their product. So also these small time athletes, they won't be getting these huge contracts that will exceed their contract or their NBA contract, right? Or their league contract, right? So that's another thing. I think the players, for that reason, need to have a revenue share agreement with the leagues that they're in, because like the owners are still making money during COVID. And how about the players? Are they making money? They probably are from the league because they're their employees, but they probably aren't making as much. So I think one way to get more revenue is to have more teams in any league, but that would mean to travel more, because my idea to get more teams is to merge with current leagues in different countries. So, merge with someone in Brazil's league, or merge with the Chinese league in China. But then the players in the NBA right now, they would have to fly to China all the time. And while they could raise the cost of the tickets and make more money, that means you're flying 18 hours at least from China to the US every couple of weeks. So that's a lot of fatigue, and I think that will lower the quality of their playing, and that might hurt the league because the quality is lowered, right? Expansion could lead to issues as well. You need places, or you need the infrastructure, right? So the NHL needs to have the arena with ice. And so there are some places that won't have an arena that they could use for hockey. So they need to create that infrastructure themselves, right? So that's another thing. Eventually, all the athletes will be replaced by robots, and it'll be interesting to watch because you think of the greatest moment in sports, and you can imagine that a robot's head is flying off in that situation. So like a flying knee to the head of the robot flies off when the ball gets passed to them and it's a little rough. The limbs are flying everywhere of the robot, right? So, and then my content will become irrelevant, which is unfortunate. Okay. Conclusion. The contract and everything, it depends on how much value you bring to the league or the team. That's why the Atlanta Hawks they're not making as much money as the Warriors because they're in Atlanta, and the Warriors are in the Bay Area, which makes you wonder why Ohio had 2 NFL teams and LA didn't have any in the early 2000s. So yeah. All right, that's all I have. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day. Bye.